Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Kerry Blaser, a shaman, author, and mental health advocate who has turned our own struggles, including suicide attempts, into a powerful message of hope and healing. Through her book, My Inner Heroine, and her work, she helps others transform emotional wounds into wisdom, showing that recovery and self-love can light the way out of darkness. Kerry, welcome to Observe the
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me to your other podcast. Yay.
Yeah. For listeners meeting you for the first time, can you share a little bit about your journey from facing your darkest moments to becoming an author and healer?
Thank you for asking that question. It's important because a lot of people experience what I experienced. I had a traumatic childhood. And why did I have a traumatic childhood? Because my parents had a traumatic childhood and they hadn't healed. They didn't know how to transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And so they took it out on me. And then I internalized that. And that's how generational trauma is passed down. So my parents got divorced when I was 6, argued constantly. I was raised in an affluent town in Southern California next to the beach, but I had to get a job at 12. I got another job at 14 that I had for 6 years and took me into college. But I was able to buy a car and get myself out of there and, take care of myself and build self-confidence. So then I went to college and I got an undergraduate degree in Chinese and religious studies. I went on to meet my ex-husband in Tibet. He's Israeli. So then I lived in Israel. And then we were married 10 years and had 3 kids. I got divorced in 2005 and got a corporate job. And so
Wow.
I never understood why I was in so much pain, why I had so many failed relationships, why I had such a challenge being a parent, why I couldn't sleep, why I had so much anxiety. I didn't understand why until the past 10 years when my healing journey started. But just because the healing journey started didn't mean that I didn't have my darkest valleys ahead of me.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that brief snapshot. I feel like I'm just saying the same words twice. September is Suicide Prevention Month. You shared openly about your own suicide attempt. Why is it important for you to talk about it during this month?
So that people understand the signs and not just for themselves, with the people around them. And they can be aware how it happens because it can be a very embarrassing event for yourself, for your family. And so I'm open to talking about it to bring awareness about how this happened for me in case anyone else can learn from it. So that's why I think it's important.
Yeah. Wow. Can you take us back to that period of your life when you were struggling most?
Yeah. So, I'm 55 now, and my mom passed away on my 45th birthday. So that's the day I became the matriarch of my family. The whole family's in my heart now. And so my intuition that day told me it's time to accept your psychic gifts and it's time to heal from your childhood trauma. Like, okay. So I started going to healers and started learning about that I didn't love myself and how many codependencies I had and how many parts of myself I had rejected. Then 4 years later, my youngest daughter had developed an eating disorder. And it was serious enough that she had to go to inpatient and then she was in a residential facility. When she was in the residential facility, we went to our first family session with her dad, her, and me. And she blamed me for her eating disorder because the therapist had taught her that an eating disorder is a maternal wound. And so I spent the whole session saying, I'm not perfect, but we have family problems. This isn't just I don't live in a vacuum here. It's not just me, right? Well, that
Yeah.
fell on deaf ears. And so on the way home, I started to internalize the negativity. And so this is where I think to understand how we accept self-hate into our lives, when my parents projected their own self-hate onto me and blamed me because they were upset, when I was a child, I'm just a kid, right? I don't know. I'm just trying to learn, is that internalization process. If I had not internalized their negativity, I wouldn't have had their problems.
Yeah.
But on the way home, I internalized my daughters, my ex-husbands, the therapist, negativity towards me. I accepted their reality. I
Yeah.
stopped fighting for my reality and accepted their reality that I'm the problem.
Yeah.
So then when I got home, I kept going, and my brain told me that my children would be better off with a dead mother than a live one.
Ooh, that's
So
terrible.
I took all the medications that I had, and I had just refilled my medications, 120 Klonopin, I don't know, 60 to 80 trazodone, so about 60 Soma and some Ambien. Then I just walked upstairs, ate in my bed, and just fell asleep instantly. Like I just let go. I was just done, done. And I don't know how I survived, but obviously I did. And the next morning, my older daughter came to get me because we were supposed to go see my younger daughter at rehab, and she found me and saved me. So that's how that happened.
Yeah. Looking back, what would you say are some of those warning signs in yourself that you now recognize as actual calls for help? Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now let's get back to the conversation.
I mean, I've been screaming for help my whole life, but I didn't know how to ask for help. Like, I didn't know how to love myself. And I had to go through the process of reparenting myself and loving on the parts of myself that I rejected. So this is the hard part, is that my soul, I know as a shaman and as physicists have proven, we are souls having a human experience. And physicists have proven that we have energy bodies or souls. So our souls plan our lives based on the laws of physics. And to get our energy to vibrate higher, we have to have movement. Okay. We have to be able to go into our valley of darkness and then come out. Like that is how we increase our vibration. So there's this two ball experiment where you have two identical balls on two tracks, and one it goes straight downhill, and then one track has hills and valleys, and the length of the track's the same distance, but the hills and valleys is technically longer than the straight downhill. Which ball reaches the finish line first?
You've asked me this question before.
Yeah,
And so if I answer it, uh, of course, the one with the hills and the valleys.
the one with the hills and the valleys. So this is where I had to learn the lesson that in order to experience enlightenment, which I did several times last year, basically climb the Mount Everest of emotional and spiritual attainment, right? I had to go into a deep valley of darkness in order to get there. I needed that many wounds to get that much wisdom.
Yeah.
So there's the transforming the emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And it's all based on how energy functions, how the laws of physics function. So I had to be able to go into your deep, dark depths of shame, despair, and just anger and fear. And then learn how to come out of it so it would propel me to my next epiphany and mountaintop. And
Yeah.
that's a huge lesson. I had to learn that the suicide attempt was necessary for me to see myself,
A lot
you
of
know,
people,
and so since our souls plan our lives, like a soul could have a suicide planned, and then the plan is for it to work, and then their soul takes on that lesson for other lifetimes, and then all the souls around them take on the lesson by having it in their life. So we come here as souls to learn lessons, to learn how to go through the hills and valleys, because the more hills and valleys you have, the faster you can move through life and increase your vibration. And the more each of us increases our vibration, the more the collective of souls, all of us, vibrate higher, because we're all connected through our heart space. So there's this metrodome experiment, and it shows like 5 metrodones, or like, they go back and forth, right? Metrodones. And so 2 are going super fast. And the faster the energy moves, the more transformative, the more powerful it is. And the other ones are, all over the place, right? Well, within about a minute of them in the same space with the 2 going super fast, they're all going super fast because energy naturally aligns with the highest vibrating, powerful energy because that's the most transformative. So the more people that look into their hearts and transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom, the higher we all vibrate and the less suicide attempts and successes that we all have.
A lot of people who struggle, they feel completely alone. What would you say to someone listening right now who is in that dark place?
I'm going to quote Carl Jung. Ooh, and this comes from I've helped Andrew Tate. I had a personal relationship with his best friend, Justin Waller, 2 months before his takedown started. So I helped him when he was in solitary confinement. Our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality, which is basically just as you feel isolated, but is the isolation true? Okay. And what is true? So, one doesn't, and Carl Jung says, one does not feel lonely because one has no one about them, but because one cannot share the most important parts of oneself. So
Hmm,
that's what happens to children in
profound.
traumatic childhoods is that the
Oh,
parents reject the child, so the child rejects his or herself. So I just follow the model of my parents. Oh, they're modeling that I should reject myself. Okay, they're the parents. Okay. You see like how that just happens because they're the parents, right?
yeah.
Um so it's that process of the loneliness. You only feel lonely because you are rejecting yourself. So now is
Oh,
the time to go through the process of how can I appreciate myself, and I ask this very difficult question to myself all the time. If I'm not grateful for what the universe has provided in my life so far, and I mean everything, then why should the universe provide anything further? And what the universe provides are life lessons. And so, I used to think that I'm like, is life only the valley of darkness? Because I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain. But I needed that many wounds to get an equal amount of wisdom, which was equivalent to more than 10 enlightenment experiences last year. And enlightenment is an emotion. So now I've expanded my emotional range to include enlightenment, which is the most high vibrating transformational emotion. And it's where one receives profound wisdom and releases catastrophic fears. So now that I've done all that work to expand my emotional range, I can ease and much more easily go in and out of enlightenment to release fears and have epiphanies. And
wow.
now, okay, now my soul's operating more, better. It's like we're here to learn how to operate our souls while having a human experience. And that's the
Yeah.
challenge we're faced right now because most people don't understand what that means. And so
We've ta-
we mistakenly blame people for our problems and project our problems onto it. You're this and you're that and and people don't realize that the universe is a mirror. So when I say you're selfish, what my soul is showing me is my own selfishness because the universe is a mirror.
okay. You've talked about the people going through the darkness. What about what advice would you have for the friends and family members? What are some ways they can support a loved one who might silently be struggling but doesn't say anything, right? But they kind of see and notice that this person is going through, some darkness, but they just don't want to talk or say anything.
So here's the thing that's hard from when you see your friend going through it. You have to learn how to hold space. Holding space means having healthy boundaries, but also listening and also taking care of oneself so that when your friend or your loved one is struggling, you aren't projecting your triggers and your emotional pain onto them. Like this is what happened with me. So I come home from the hospital after my suicide attempt and I ask my dad and my stepmom for help. And she says, well, we can't help you because we're so busy. We're in pain. I almost died, but and you see where the problem is. Okay. If that didn't just
Uh,
explain shit, like, I don't know, or like my ex-husband, okay, and this is a big lesson that I had to learn, and that I learned when I was writing my book. So when I was talking to my ex-husband, and of course he comes from Israel, he had a traumatic childhood, like we're both, we were both messed up, right? Okay, so he tells me that I deserve to be punished for my suicide attempt, and I used to use that as like, oh, what a jerk he is, what a jerk, what a jerk. what I didn't accept and what I was failing to see is that Ahai had tried to inflict the death penalty to punish me for being a bad mother. He didn't say death, he just said punished. So I had already tried to punish myself way worse than what he was talking about. But he's the problem? Yeah, no. I'm not saying that that's not a problem, but I'm the bigger problem, right? In that whole scenario, I'm the problem.
Yeah.
So, you have to accept these things and self
Yeah.
reflect.
Yeah. I want us to talk about your book, right? In the book is called My Inner Heroine.
Heroin. Uh huh.
Heroine.
Exploring feminine pain. Yeah.
Heroine. Okay. You talk about transforming emotional wounds into personal wisdom. What role did that mindset play in your own recovery?
So, I mean, that was the whole thing I had to figure out is, I thought my whole life was a valley of darkness because I didn't know how to climb a mountain. I didn't know how to forgive myself. Like all the feminine self care, the feminine is the right brain, the forgiveness, the compassion, the nurturing, the love, the intuition, the creativity. That is all self care. Mothers model to the children how to love themselves, the nurturing, the compassion. Fathers model how to treat others, beginning with the mother, because women do inside and men do outside, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know how to do the inside.
How did the mindset of turning emotional wounds into wisdom, how did that help you recover?
Yeah, so I had to that's the process I had to learn. How do I forgive myself for attempting suicide when I have children? How do I forgive myself for, being what I perceive as a bad mother? How do I forgive myself for marrying someone out of fear? How do I forgive myself for not allowing my original hero in my book in high school to even talk to me when he was, ASB president of 2,000 kids. Like everyone trusts him to lead us, but you can't talk to me. No, you're not allowed to talk to me. So I had to, learn to have compassion for myself, forgiveness for myself. Like Andrew Tate, like that really helped me. I was like, okay, if I can extend compassion to Andrew Tate while he's in solitary confinement, then I need to give myself the same amount of compassion. But I resonated with him in solitary confinement because I felt that isolated as well. So like there's a another science, physics experiment where you have two prongs. This is like how does resonance work, right? So if you have one prong tuned to 400 hertz and one prong tuned to 500 hertz, when 500 hertz moves, the 400 hertz doesn't notice because they're not moving in the same frequency. But when both are 400 hertz, when one moves, the other one resonates and it moves too, and that's why people get triggered. That's why when you go out and you see someone being selfish, it triggers your own selfishness because it resonates the same frequency. So I resonated with Andrew Tate in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Just that was and if kind of to give you a visual of how much I rejected myself from my childhood, I saw this statue of a it's call it grief, and it's a parent who the child passed away, and you see the head and the arms, no body and just legs, and then you see through the body to like the ocean in the background. I was like, oh yeah, that was me. I rejected everything. That's why there's nothing left to connect with. How do I have a relationship with myself or anyone else? So that's why I've spent most of my life by myself, feeling alone because I rejected myself, because that's what I learned from my parents.
Wow. And just as a closing note, right, on the book about um no yeah. We're talking about suicide prevention, and we also talked about the book and my inner heroine. What's one myth or about suicide or mental health you wish everyone understood?
That it's a necessary part of our path to enlightenment. It's a necessary part of our path to expanding our emotional range and moving through the hills and valleys of life. And so, mental illness is learning how to surf the waves of life, how to go into those deeper, darker, denser emotions, and then process those through to pull out more self belief and more self confidence.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kerry. It's
Thank
a pleasure
you.
to chat with you again. Where can listeners find your book and connect with you for more guidance and inspiration?
KerryBlaser.com. There's a link to buy my book or book a session. I also have a free 2 hour session for first responders and military. My sessions include meditation, drumming, trauma to enlightenment coaching, where I teach all my self reflection techniques, personalized healing plan, and a digital copy of my book. And my book can be found on Amazon. And then I'm on Instagram on Kerry Blaser Official, but all those links are on my website. So I think my website's the best place to go.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
delight to chatting with you.
thank you.
Yeah, I just remember, can you spell out the website for audio listeners?
Kerryblaser, kerryblaser.com.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll put the link in the description and the show notes so listeners can click and go directly to the site.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.